Hey there, friends. Lindbergh of the Health and Fitness Motivation Podcast. And today we are doing another rollback and replay of a podcast. And the podcast I'm going to replay for you today, I cannot believe was only my 20th podcast. Out of 430 some now, this was podcast number 20, and it's called Is Keto Right for You? I can't believe this was 3 years ago. It feels like yesterday. But essentially, I had an opportunity to spend a good half a day with experts in doing research around diet and health, and they're the scientists that are actually looking at, metabolic impact and all kinds of different things. And so this episode I put together, I'll tell you in the episode itself what it's about, but it was a really great diet. So if you are at all curious about this whole low carb keto thing and whether or not it would be right for you, this is the episode for you. All right, enjoy this blast from the past. Is keto right for you? Finally get back to a life with exercise, and this is your first step. We're going to start getting you moving. I'm Lynn Lindbergh, your bad couch guru. Well, hello there. How are you doing right now today? It's good to have you with me here today, and I know you're not actually here with me at my desk all by myself. Today, we are talking about the keto diet. I went to a seminar at our local Virginia Mason titled, Is Keto Right for You? The reason I went was purely selfish for my own educational purposes. And when I walked in and sat down and listened to these research scientists talking about the keto diet very scientifically, very objectively, and they weren't selling anything. They weren't selling protein powders and the latest pill and potion and here's a keto bar for you. None of that was going on at all. I got so excited about the information that I learned about it, and it was so grounded and objective that I took massive notes because I knew that you would be interested in learning about keto also, because keto's all the rage. It's fashionable. Everyone's either doing it, trying it, or wondering what it is. And 2 years ago, nobody knew what keto was, but it wasn't the thing. And folks are wondering, is this the Atkins diet all over again? It's definitely not the grapefruit diet. And it sure as heck isn't a low-fat diet. So in this episode, I am talking through the copious amount of notes that I took. So it's a very sciencey, data-driven podcast today. And my sciencey, data-driven folks, you are going to love this and wish for even more. So I am going to have a few resources for you in the show notes if you want to learn even more. While you listen to this, I want you to really filter everything I say through the context of your own health and what you think would work or not work for you. Because the one thing I did learn very, very clearly is keto can be good for some and very bad for others, or good for some in moderation. And so listen to that for you. Please don't listen to it for your friend or your spouse or somebody else. Don't go to your friend and say, hey, I listened to this keto talk and I think you should blah, 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 blah. Do, though, forward this podcast to them if you think it would be beneficial for them, because it really is important for all of us to own our own health decisions and for all of us to really know why we're doing what we're doing and know why we're doing keto, not just because it's fashionable. And then at the end of this discussion, I'm going to share exactly what I took out of it for my own diet and what I'm doing based on what I have going on in my health. I'm not going to share that with you right now, though, because I don't want it to skew how you think about it for yourself. And I have some unique, different health things going on that very likely you don't have going on. And so it just wouldn't even be appropriate to muddle it all up with that. But I will share it just so you can get to know me a little bit better and how I think about all these things. And speaking about how I think about all these things, holy moly, have you not seen keto everywhere? And I kept asking myself, why is this the next diet craze? Why is this the next rage. Why is everybody doing it? Okay, not everybody, but where I sit in the social media feed that gets filtered to me based on what social media thinks I would like to see, it does seem like I'm hit with it all the time. But we do. We see keto everywhere. We see it at grocery stores. We see it at Costco and Sam's Market. There's keto bars, the keto diet, keto cookbooks, keto peptides, and all kinds of keto supplements. And then I had this light bulb moment and I said, oh, of course. One of the reasons keto is being pushed so much is because there are so many things people can sell you that are keto and keto compliant. The keto diet is very restrictive compared to what we typically eat in the United States here. And going off track from a true strict keto regimen is really easy to do. So there are all kinds of businesses out there who have popped up, created keto compliant stuff, marketed it as keto compliant, and they are happy to have you open your wallet to them to buy their stuff. That's a part of why we keep seeing it everywhere, because somebody can make a buck off of it. But whether or not somebody can make money on something has nothing to do about whether or not it is or isn't scientifically sound. So my hope for you is that at the end of this show, you will know, is keto going to be a fad? Is the keto flu a real thing? What does keto do to our cholesterol levels? What does keto do to people who have diabetes? Is keto good or bad for our bone density? And there's all kinds of supplements that have hit the market now with ketones in them, and we want to know, what even are they? So let's first start by talking about what the keto diet is. With keto, you pull out most of your carbs like bread and sugar and a whole lot more. You do a lot of protein and you do even more fats. They want 60 to 80% of your food to come from fats and only 25 to 50 grams of carbs total for a day. In the show notes for this, there's a link to the blog for this episode, and I have pictures in there of what a keto diet looks like. And that's really the best way, is to just look at photos of a ketogenic diet. Or you could go to Google right now and just Google images of ketogenic diet. And there are tons of them, and they are, for the most part, close enough to accurate that it'll really quickly dial you into what keto is. I Googled a no list and a yes list for things you can eat on the keto diet. It asks you to avoid all beer, cider, and sweet liqueurs. And then on the no list is wheat flour, rye, rice, quinoa, potatoes, pizza, pie, pasta, oats, muesli, legumes, barley, beans, bread, breakfast cereals, all on the no list. Buckwheat, bulgur, chickpeas, corn, couscous, and lentils, also on the no list. Donuts, on the no list. Crisps, cookies, chocolates, cakes, biscuits, artificial sweeteners, agave, nope. You cannot have dried fruit. No ice cream, no pancakes, pastries, soft drinks, sweet puddings, no syrup, no hemp oil, no grapeseed oil, no flaxseed oil, no corn oil, canola oil, margarine, safflower oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, vegetable, all no-nos. You also need to avoid all processed foods and stick to whole natural foods whenever possible. Limit carb intake to under 50 grams per day to keep you in ketosis and fat burning mode. Now, 50 grams a day, that's 2 small apples worth of carbs in an entire day. Whew. So what's on the... Have I sold you already on keto? Already. On the yes list is essentially any kind of meat. They've got bacon, beef jerky, bison, chicken, duck, goat, lamb, cod, halibut, lobster, mackerel, mussels, oyster, veal, turkey, steak, rabbit, poultry, pork, organ meats. You get the gist there. Your fruits are limited only to avocado, berries, coconut, lime, lemon, olives, and rhubarb. So essentially no fruit but berries. You can drink black tea, bone broth, coffee, green tea, herbal tea, and water. This is where they want you to do a lot of healthy fats. Avocado, beef tallow, butter, coconut oil, duck fat, ghee, lard, macadamia oil, MCT oil, and olive oil. Vegetables, you can eat just about any kind of vegetable, but you got to watch your tomatoes, and you have to stay away from those starches like potatoes and sweet potatoes. Onions are okay, so is asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, cucumber, garlic. Mushrooms is on this vegetable list. Come on, guys, mushrooms are not a vegetable, but they're on the list. and lots of nuts and seeds. Your dairy, you can have butter, eggs, ghee, and heavy cream. None of that wimpy half and half stuff. And flour, if you really do want to make a bread, you are limited to almond flour, coconut flour, flaxseed meal, and psyllium husk. Woo! All right, there's more than that, but that just gets you in the nutshell. If you've never heard of keto, you can kind of see what it is. Alrighty, let's get into a little more of the science of this. This information comes from Dr. Jonathan Stover and Dr. Kathy Prater. They are part of the Digestive Disease Institute of Virginia Mason Hospital. So this is a huge piece of what they do, is to know the real science behind it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I took this whole hour-long conversation and distilled it down to hopefully just about a 15-minute summary so you can walk away with what you need to get up and running. Let's take a timeout now and talk a little bit about how the body, at a very, very high, incomplete level, how the body metabolizes different kinds of foods that we eat. So if you eat a big pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, your body's going to metabolize that way different than if you eat the same calories in a real fatty steak. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Your brain and your red blood cells must have sugar to burn. So when you eat the foods that are classified in the carbohydrates, grains, pastas, sugars, fruit, your body very quickly converts that to energy and can use it right away. Extra calories that you eat get stored as glucose in your liver and stored as glucose in your muscle. But once all of that space for glucose is filled up, per se, then your body stores the rest of the excess energy as fat in your body. And that's why fat tends to hang on, because your body uses its glycogen levels first before it starts going into using fat. Then when your body runs out of the glycogen, that's when it goes into using the fat. But when your fat is converted back into energy, so just think about, like, take a look at some fat on you here. No fat shaming at all. We'll just take a look at the fat we've got on us. When that converts to energy, it doesn't convert back to that glycogen that the body uses, which is also what your brain and red blood cells needs. It actually converts through a process called ketoacidosis. So that's the word, ketoacidosis, of converting the fat into energy in your body. And what is used for energy then, that process, doesn't convert it to glycogen. It converts it to something that we call, in layman's terms, ketones. So they're kind of like glycogen-ishy, but like half digested or half burned fat cells. It takes about 3 to 4 days for human brains to be able to adapt to use those ketones very well or efficiently at all. When someone says, oh, I started a keto diet, but I felt horrible and I was nauseous and I had a headache and I felt like I had a flu, and then magically on day number 4, I felt euphoric and I felt awesome and it was the most amazing thing ever. That actually is a real thing. That is your brain and your body kind of going into a panic state saying, where's my glycogen? I need this to use. I don't know what to do with these ketones very well. I'm in a bit of a crisis. Then when the brain adapts and can use those ketones, then all of a sudden everything starts working again and you can feel kind of euphoric. Now, the thing about this is that only works if you follow a very strict ketogenic diet and you don't cheat. I hate that word, cheat, but you know what I mean. You don't go off the diet at all. If you go off the diet even by a meal or 2, I asked the physician this and they said, yep, if you go off the diet by a meal or 2, it resets the whole clock again. So don't get yourself caught in that cycle of trying keto for 3 days and then going off of it for a day, and trying keto for 3 days and going off of it for a day. You will feel awful all the time. You'll end up in the doctor's office wondering if you have a chronic illness, when really you're just in the keto flu. I'm sure it happens. People who do this diet successfully, a lot of them struggle with the hydration because it's the carbs that helps hydrate us. And you can use salt tablets, but salt can cause high blood pressure. So if you've already got high blood pressure and you go on keto, but that means the water in your body's less, so you're having trouble staying hydrated. But if you use salt tablets, it'll raise your blood pressure. Think about that very carefully for yourself and ask yourself, is this right for you? Also, a lot of people who go on the keto diet tend to push a little too far on not enough fiber because they say, oh, I love eating my meat. I love eating my high-fat dairy. I love eating the oils and the nuts, but they don't pile on the vegetables like they're supposed to, and so they end up constipated, which doesn't really fit into my picture of healthy and happy. Because this diet tends to be so high protein, there is some concern about kidney issues. So you want to know for yourself, how are your kidneys, what's going on with them? Is this super high protein way of eating the right way for me? Another thing to think about. Another thing to think about. When you're eating low carb to almost no carb for any amount of time, your insulin levels are going to drop. So if insulin levels are an issue for you, you really want to watch that, but you probably already know how to watch that. And if insulin levels are not a topic or an issue for you at all right now, when insulin levels drop, cortisol levels go up. That's the very same stress hormone as when somebody scares you from behind, or you just have that long-term day in and day out stress or anxiety. It's the very same thing, and it wears out our bodies in a hurry. And cortisol, let's make this connection here, that stress hormone is used in the process of tearing down your muscles and tearing down your bones. So if your stress hormone is up, being able to maintain strong muscle mass is harder, and putting yourself at risk for bone loss is higher too. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. We know that as we age, right? We've talked about this on a lot of podcasts. We want to be able to do a body weight squat for one very important reason, for the rest of our lives. So we want to keep that muscle mass strong. I did ask the physicians. There were actually 4 physicians in the room. I asked them a little bit more about the bone density thing, because that's a big issue when we talk about aging and broken hips and women and osteoporosis. They said that people who do their weight-bearing exercises and impact exercises, so that's jumping, pushing, pulling, weights, anything that puts stress on the bones, your body naturally triggers itself to keep its bone density stronger. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it's a really great thing. People who carry extra weight on them, that is an extra load on your muscles and your bones, and that actually helps a lot of people keep their bones stronger. So folks who are heavier tend to have better bone density. The concern then comes in with someone who is at a healthy weight or sitting just barely at underweight, and they go keto and stay on keto for a very long time and don't do load-bearing exercises. They are at a big risk for osteoporosis issues because of a lot of things that are going into play there. One is the cortisol levels, which hits your bone density in a negative way. 2 is if you're underweight, the fat on your body is what helps all the processes you need in order to gain bone density. And if you don't have enough fat on your body is not able to produce the hormones needed to get that better bone density, and it just becomes this spiral down. So if you are very skinny or underweight, I already know you don't think you are. But if you think that might be you, really look at that and ensure you're not putting your bone density at risk. Whew. What about cholesterol levels? Okay. Keto diet and cholesterol levels. All of this came from the physicians who combined studies on different kinds of diets and showing what it does to bodies over the time. So keto and cholesterol levels showed that the good cholesterol raised, but not necessarily the bad cholesterol. And this is where it gets tricky. A lot of folks go on keto, and I've seen this. And they say, oh, I'm on keto, so it's bacon, butter, and ribeye steak night. Woohoo! And now for breakfast, it's bacon and eggs. If you're eating a lot of saturated fats, that definitely is a concern. If you go on keto and you stick to the healthy fats, then it's really only your good cholesterol that gets impacted. So cholesterol and keto. If you have cholesterol markers that are anywhere borderline or high, you've got to talk to your doctor about this. You've got to be really, really smart. Okay, diabetes. This one was really interesting to me because diabetes is a game of keeping your insulin levels level. And when you go to a keto diet, that kind of eating does a good job of stabling out your sugar levels, which is a really, really good thing. But if you have type 2 diabetes, you still need to take insulin. And what is insulin? It's sugar. It's a type of sugar, which essentially negates the whole keto. So if you're a diabetic and you're taking insulin, you technically are not keto because the insulin breaks the keto diet. But wait, there's more. Here's the exciting part about it. These physicians showed a whole bunch of data about diabetics who went keto for a period of time, months, not years, months. And the research does show that there was some weight loss with the ketogenic diet and insulin dependence went way down. That keto for diabetics is actually an amazing tool that could help a lot of diabetics with getting diabetes under control. That's a segment of the population that is a really interesting one to look at. And so now what about these ketone supplements then? They sell you these little packets of magic powder that you can put into your drink. And it says, these are, 100% ketones, which is what, you want to have for when you're in ketogenesis. What are these ketones? They are the byproduct of your fat being converted into something that your body can use for energy. But if you take a ketone supplement of just ketones, that's just extra calories going into your body and it defeats the whole purpose. You want to burn and use your own ketones if you're doing this for the purpose of weight loss. You don't want to add ketones into you to have to burn those too on top of your own. Let's revisit again the cardiovascular diseases. Cardiovascular diseases are a big killer. Ketogenic diets can put you in a space where you end up with more cardiovascular disease. And as any cardiologist will tell you, the heart's complicated. And there's the plumbing side of the heart, there's the electrical side of the heart. There's so much at play with it that we're not even going to touch that on a podcast. But if you have anything less than 100% healthy heart, you want to talk to your physician before you go jump on the keto bandwagon. This is a lot to think about. And I was looking at it saying, oh my gosh, no wonder why I was frustrated with all these advertisements about keto and how awesome and wonderful it is. Yet I kept looking at the diet thinking this can't be good for everybody. Yet I kept hearing about all these people doing it and loving it. Here is why people love keto. When you are on the ketogenic diet, most people are not hungry all the time anymore. And that is the holy grail of being able to manage what you eat. However, the reason you're not hungry all the time, it's simply because your insulin levels are stable. When you eat sugar or carbs, your insulin levels go up. And after a period of time, the insulin levels start going down. That's when your body says, hey, I'm hungry. It's a little more complicated than that. In general, as far as your food and diet is concerned, it's rising and falling insulin levels that trigger you feeling hungry. And if you're trying to lose weight and you spend 10 hours a day feeling hungry, that is miserable and it's not sustainable. But most people on ketogenic diets don't experience that because their insulin levels are stable. And that's what makes it so they can not eat as much, even though what they're eating is higher fat. They feel full faster, so they're eating less. And that feels really good. But it only works if you stay on the diet. And that is what motivates people to stay on this diet. And that is why the diet industry and the supplement industry and the protein bar industry have all come out with all kinds of bars and potions and magic pills branded keto to help you succeed because they are seeing a way to make a buck off of the system. Is keto a fad? It's actually not at all. It's been around forever. In fact, the ketogenic diet has been used to treat epilepsy in children for millennium, literally millennium. It's nothing new. Does keto have staying power? Is it going to stay the wild craze that it is today? Here's my prediction. There's enough that's complex about keto that makes it difficult for people to get their head around it. And that alone makes it difficult for keto to have staying power because so many people will execute it incorrectly, or so many folks will do keto when they shouldn't be doing keto, and then they'll have some disastrous health results. And then that'll hit the media and we'll hear all these stories about it. We've seen it time and time and time again. It's nothing new. Now, because of this, my prediction is that the market is going to get soft and a little bit worn out of keto in another year or two. And then the market's going to look for the next latest and greatest thing because we will have more scientific advances. We will have more data. So there will be the next latest and greatest thing that comes out. And we will hear about it like crazy, just like we're hearing about keto today, because there will be opportunities for businesses to build products around it that they can sell. So because there's a market for it, that's really what's going to push it. And that's why we're going to hear about it so much. Now, to add to my prediction, I predict that we are going to see a massive no diet craze. That's going to be the next fashionable thing to do with food. I think we should get ahead of this and lead the way and say we're going to make the new fashionable fad in food be the done dieting diet. The done dieting diet. And for short, we can call it the Triple D diet. Okay, on a more serious note, we did take a look at multiple research studies over a long period of time of folks who've been on all kinds of different diets because the question is, does keto stack up to other diets? Is it truly superior? And these physicians aggregated multiple studies, and the conclusion I found really fascinating. It basically said that of all the diets that do calorie restriction only, the Mediterranean diet outperforms them. But in short-term studies, the keto diet slightly outperforms the Mediterranean diet by an aggregate of only 2.5 pounds. So we're talking minuscule, not statistically relevant. Long-term studies are showing that the Mediterranean diet and the keto diet are on par as far as maintaining weight loss, and they both outperform simply calorie restriction. So that's an interesting data point to look at. And the Mediterranean diet has a lot of grains in it, whole grains, but a lot of grains in it, and the keto has essentially hardly any. Both diets do a good job of managing insulin levels. The one thing that I want you to take from this talk, the one important thing, is I want you to think about your own health. What's unique about you? What do you have going on? What doctor appointments do you need to make that you're way overdue in? And evaluate all of that when you're looking at a ketogenic diet. And decide for yourself what's going to work for you. And don't let anybody else, especially if they have something to sell you, don't let them tell you what's right for you. And I promised you at the end of this, I would tell you what I decided to do with this information. For me, I decided that keto was a not for me. Not at all, in fact, because I've got a GI condition where low fat is how I need to eat. And if I eat a very high fat, holy moly, it's not pretty. So a high fat diet is not right for me, which means keto is not right for me. Also, I had a bit of a aha, oh duh moment sitting there with these Virginia Mason physicians talking about keto. I actually had been cycling through rounds of trying to do keto. I did not realize that I was getting the keto flu, right? I would go all keto, all low carb, and I would feel like crap. I'd get headaches. I'd feel grumpy. And then after a few days, I'd say, oh, forget this. And I would eat a bunch of carbs. And then I'd feel better. And I'd think, oh, I feel better, but carbs are bad for me. But I feel better, but carbs are bad for me. I got to go back on this keto diet. That's the right thing to do. This is why I am not a nutritionalist. So I'd go back on keto, and then after a few days, I'd feel awful again, and then I'd quit. I went through so many rounds of this that after I listened to the seminar with the physicians, I decided to completely go off keto, eat carbs moderately, very, very moderately. And it's been 3 weeks, and I have been feeling better. I'm also not diabetic, thank goodness. So for me, keto is not right, but you get to make your own decision. And remember, you are the one in control of you. If you'd like to talk with me more about this or anything active lifestyle, head over to couchtoactive.com/program, and you can sign up for a free consultation call with me, and we'll talk about what's going on with you, and we'll help you get your active lifestyle up and running. These calls are the highlight of my day. I absolutely look forward to them. They're fun, or I do my best to make them fun, and you'll get a ton of inspiration and ideas about how to look at your active lifestyle and get it up and running. So please, please head over to couchtoactive.com/program. Sign up for your call with me right now, today. And right now, please go over to iTunes, leave a review, or send me an email at beawesome@couchtoactive.com, and I will read it on a future podcast. Thank you for listening to the Couch to Active podcast, where I believe getting off the couch is the hardest exercise of all. Bye-bye now.